Hey internet arborist friends, today we're going to have a video on the Shark Gill Felling Cut. The Shark Gill Felling Cut. See the action video and then see the tutorial if you are a skilled with the chainsaw and you want to see the steps on how I do the Shark Gill Felling Cut. Alright, hope you enjoy. Alright guys, so let's say we have a situation where we have above ground pool, alright, fence, and house, and then you have a tree here growing on the wood's edge. And significant growth over that property due to all of the competition of the woods trees. Significant lean. Alright, let's say the real tight space between the houses. More houses. Can't get a crane to it. Just rigging this down and getting it out of here. Let's say it's tremendous. Let's say it's 3 days of work and $6,000. Or if you could pull the thing into the woods and with putting a lot, making sure not leaving anything up to risk with maybe multiple lines. And you could do it for $1,000, you're going to get that job over the guy that gives them a $6,000 price, if the customer trusts you to it. So in this case, the hinge wood that you leave, you don't want it too thin or it's going to snap off to the side. But when you have it really thick, there's also the tendency of a really thick area of hinge wood, it doesn't want to flex on it, especially with certain species. And sometimes you're pulling really hard and it doesn't want to flex, and then all of a sudden when it does go, it kind of cracks off fast, and that can fall to the sides. Which in the past I do triangular pulls or diamond shaped pulls. That way that minimizes that side felling to the side as much when you have ropes like that. But there's a technique that I pieced together several things together to make this hinge wood more pliable and flex instead of shearing off. This is one situation where you would use it. It also makes the hinge wood go really slow and hold on for a long time. And this is the Shark Gill Felling Cut. And but this is a good situation where you would use it. You don't use it on vertical trees where they could be easily wedged over or pulled over, unless you need to put in some practice, which is always a good thing to use it in a situation for a while that's not critical. But this right here is a classic good use of the Shark Gill. And what we're going to do with that, instead of this being a really thick chunk of wood here to flex, you're going to turn that into basically stacks of lumber almost, with a little air gap between, so they can fall in and flex into the next air gap. All right, let's get into that. Okay, so let's go over the Shark Gill Felling Cut. You have your tree, and let's say this one's pretty vertical, just to keep things simple at first. You do your traditional notch. You can do an open face too, which oftentimes you will, because a lot of times you want control all the way to the ground. But let's go with the traditional notch. You take your, now this is for professional fellers only that are good at boring and know exactly where their bar is and so forth, can visualize where they are cutting. But then you bore cut in right at the apex. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit. Go right at the apex of this notch, so right at the point, and you go just bar width straight across, right around the apex of that notch. Now the Europeans do this a lot because, and I don't know what it's called, but I like to name it the trench cut, European trench cut, because often it visualizes, I think, to people of the trench in the ground, and how, you know, how the ground wall can cave in and fall into it. And that's essentially what it does, is these fibers in here can collapse into that trench. And what this does, it gets your hinge wood moving a little sooner than it would if you didn't have that. All right. So you do this European trench cut. A lot of European countries, they teach this with their notch. Believe it or not, you might not even heard of it, but they do. So I picked that up many years ago from probably Tree Buzz Forum, in touch with guys over there, and trying this like on a tulip tree or something like that, it's very noticeable. Just that helps get this moving with thicker hinge wood. All right, and then your next bore cut, you're going to leave a section of lumber, 1 inch, 2 inch, something like that, and you bore in again, and you're going to try to stay vertical with the grain of the tree. If the tree's not vertical, then you're going to have to adjust this, but try to stay in line with the grain of the tree, and you're going to bore in. And the important thing is, if you want your notch to dictate exactly where that tree is going, and you want it to be really perfect, you want it to follow the apex that you would put in here, that if it's that is important where the tree exactly falls, then finish this cut about on level of the plane or the apex, the plane of the traditional or the apex. You finish on that level, okay? That is important. On a lot of the old Shark Gill videos, and testing of all different ways, I would go deeper than that, and everything holds and all that is fine, but the accuracy of where that tree hits on the ground might not be perfect. In a lot of cases, all you need is it to go in this direction and hold, and that's fine. Now, the rest of the gills after this, step them up maybe about halfway. If you wanted to do the Shark Gill, what I would call perfectly, is you step them up about halfway of that one, and then you go until this one is about halfway past that one. And we'll get into why. I'll show you some video of why. Now, oftentimes on most trees, just a trench cut and 2 shark gills is good. If it's a really, really long pull and you want a lot of hinge wood thickness, you can go more. That would be what I would consider is a perfect shark gill. Now, these actually, if you made them really long, made that one really long, it doesn't matter a whole lot. When they're in the middle of one, that really helps bending. The critical thing is, if you want it to land exactly where you told it to with the apex, then you want this guy to be on that level. If it goes much further than that, this whole piece of lumber here can flex, and if it's thicker on one side than the other, then you can get a little bit of deviation of where it's going to fall. All right. So like I said, the Shark Gill cut, and if you could, I'd like to see you call it that name. That name just seemed really appropriate to me to mimic the shape of a shark's gills. But I have a real tight, small group of friends, believe it or not. Yes, and I ran this by them and said, guys, could you think of a name for this? I already have one in mind, but I'm not going to say it. And right away, my friend Alex Black said, I think it should be called a Shark Gill Cut. And I was like, whoa, that is the exact word for word name that I thought of. And Alex is he's gone from this realm right now, but yeah, we would like to have it called the Shark Gill, because sharks have these gills. But anyway, so you use this guy not on normal vertical trees that are easy to fell. You use it when they have a lot of backlean and you need a lot of hinge wood, and you got to bring it, and you really need ropes in the tree. You're not going to be wedging this stuff over. If it's already got lean that way and you wanted it to go real slow for some reason because of a driveway, or I've done it on dead trees so they don't hit the ground and shatter as much. So that's another good thing you could use it for. And you'll the amazing thing about, now this whiteboard doesn't erase very well. It's the really interesting thing about it, if you're used to felling trees your whole life, when this thing goes, it is so loud and popping, okay, that you think the tree's going immediately when you hear it as loud poppy sounds. But so as this lumber, so let's divide these into lumber boards. as these boards get bent around, the ones on the back side, of course, have further to go. So they'll start breaking off fiber way up in the tree, hopefully way up in the tree. And they'll start sliding down past all the other fibers, and that's what all that moaning and groaning is these fibers being, they pop. You get these little tremors of earthquakes, like these little, you'll see these sawdust like shake off the tree, and these tremors when the fibers pop. But they usually pop further away from the hinge wood, and then as that tree comes off, you've got this long fiber still being ripped out of the center of the log. Now this would ruin saw logs. Not ruin, but it's going to mess up the saw log, that's for sure. So this is more of a residential type thing, where it's really important for your hinge wood to last, and where you needed a lot of hinge wood, but you needed to flex and not shear off. I want to give credit to where I picked up on these things, and go over the other times I used the Shark Gill cut. I showed in the first drawing the tree leaning directly over a pool and house, and you want to go take it the opposite way. The other way is the side lean. So you have your tree, you have your obstacles that you can't hit, and you want to fell it this way toward us. Okay, so you cut your notch, and in traditional ways, what do? We leave this hinge wood on this side much thicker. We make the hinge wood on this side thinner, so that we hope that this thing doesn't snap off in that direction. And then, of course, compensating pull lines, or maybe even a side line, a static side line as you pull it this way. But I would use a Shark Gill in this situation, because then we make thick hinge across the entire tree, and we don't just have to have one thick side. But that one thick side is where I picked up the main idea for the Shark Gill hinge. I came across, I don't subscribe to them, but I came across a video probably 4 or 5 years ago. This guy named Logger Wade. And again, he's a logger. He does things in the woods, which you have way less obstacles in the woods. You have other trees and things go wrong. You got usually a skidder that can fix things for you and yank things out. So it's a good place to practice stuff. But what he got into was what he called the triple hinge. And what it was side leaners, or ones he wanted to roll. Let's look directly down his hinge wood. Let's say this was the notch. He would have it thicker on one side, and then really thin on the other side, or maybe nothing at all. And to get this really thick wood to not just shear off, he would bore in. And that right there, he gave me the idea, because he's adding airspace between essentially these pieces of lumber and allowing them to flex. And that's when I combined the trench cut at the apex, the European trench cut, and instead of just doing on one side, you leave really thick hinge wood and you do this whole thing into this triple hinge or double hinge or quadruple hinge with the shark gills all the way across. And I was never searching for some fancy cut to show people like, oh, look, I'm smart. Okay, I came across his thing by accident. I was already using the European trench cut for years, and then I had a situation on a huge white pine in 2017 that I had underpriced. I showed up to do it, and I anticipated doing it with my knuckle boom crane, and I was like, man, I really underpriced that. I'm gonna really lose my butt on this job. It's gonna take so long. And I was like, there's so much, there's a lot of room to fell that tree, but it goes across the driveway, and I didn't want to damage the driveway. So I was like, you know what, if I made a really big hinge with these air spaces, it'll probably go slow. We'll put a couple of mats down and a couple of logs down in the yard to try to keep it up off the driveway a bit. And I tried my first version of the Shark Gill, and I was blown away by how much hinge wood we had. If you added up the thick wood, the wood combined, that was a tremendous amount of hinge wood, and it went slow, and it held fibers for so long. As you know, on white pine, they tend to pop and go fast. They're not stringy, and if you have really thick hinge wood, they just don't budge, and then they go pop and they go. But it was very different with the Shark Gill. Nice. That was cool looking, man. I got wet. Each one of those closing up and then pulling fiber. Nice. That was cool looking, man. I got wet. Each one of those closing up and then pulling fiber. It was a really slow, actually, at first. And look how thick that hinge wood is, Adam. I mean, that's 13 inches of hinge wood. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I had kerfs. So I had kerfs where they could collapse and start bending, a little bit of airspace between each one. Yeah, let's get that rope off and it must have a hole in it somewhere, all this water coming out. Oh Oh yeah, yep. It's a split trunk. It's one of the trunks collected water. These Alterna mats are awesome. Definitely no damage anywhere. You all right? Up off the driveway. Alright guys, so I took 3 pieces of plywood here and the exact same from the same sheet, 3 more pieces, and I glued these together to make it one solid piece. And these 3, if you add them up, it's the same thickness, but we put an air gap between them. Okay, now I already did one video on this and I thought I was too long-winded, so I'm doing it over again, but I actually tweaked it a little bit. But anyway, if I try to bend this one, I can't. I tried everything I could on my last video and I kind of hurt my stomach a little bit, so I'm not going to go quite as hard. Okay, now take this one, and just to demonstrate, the air space between the lumber really allows them to start flexing. All right. So just to give a little visual of what I'm talking about, you get some airspace between your lumber. If this is your fibers of your log, and you think of it as lumber, it really helps with the flexing. So if we're felling a tree that way, the ones in the back are going to pop their fibers up inside the log first because they need to break loose and start bending. Next breeze. I couldn't get to move, so I decided to cut off almost all of this side of the hinge I was leaning toward, and I still couldn't get it to go. Oh, broke it. I trimmed that
wonderful. Look at that close up. Go, James. All right, hold it there, James. Beautiful. All right, stop. Can you hold it, James? Then hold it there. That means stop it. James, hold it there. All right. Yeah, it looked like it was going again, and I felt it rubbing against my foot, so it felt like it was going. Because it's twanging right here, like this. All right, raise up a little bit. I'll watch my tree. Oh, you threw my knot down. You're safe. That way, there's no way that's going to come off prematurely and snap the hinge. No way ever. And I wish I had this years ago, because on tulip trees, when you're cranking them over, the little bastards, sometimes they hinge a crack when you're 3/4 of the way to the rigging point and you wanted it to go all the way. But this would make those tulip trees way more pliable and not crack. I'm going to tie in my lanyard into this other leader, and you are going to cranky, and I'm going to talk to you, and everything's going to look really good. Watch that rigging point if it keeps coming over, and that's nice. I have that sling there, my backup sling. It'll tell me if the rigging point's coming this way a lot. Looking great, it's lifting up. You're gonna hear a lot of noise up here. All right, hold it there. You walk away. I'm gonna thin up the hinge for you. Go ahead and go through the one gill. Stay away. The sharks are noisy. Alright, go ahead and crank. Shark gill is major noisy. Keep going. Normally cracks and pops mean it's going to go, but not in this case. Keep going. Yeah, clear out, just in case. Thank you. Yep. I'm just checking everything out. It's looking good. So as it bends, it withdraws these strings. Like if you use like a broom, like a natural broom bristle, it's pulling fibers as it goes over. It's pulling fibers down from deep up in. Pop, 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 pop. It's not just all right here, it's pulling them down. So you got these long slivers up in these holes now that just stay on forever. It's awesome. All right, crank some more. It's going to be noisy and it's going to hold on now. And I'd rather err on the safe side, so I might tell you to clear out again in a little bit. And we'll just keep coming back. Might hit my GoPro up there. Keep going. Oh, Sharky, you're doing so fine. Keep going. Clear out for a minute. Clear out. Look at Sharky. Look how good it is. It doesn't even, I mean, it's all the way over and it doesn't want to release. Now we're going to crank and actually pick up. It got to the rigging point, but it's got a little bit of slack since it went further. So let's tighten up and get it pretty darn tight, and then feel the rope above the GRCS to make it feel like a bar, like a steel bar. All right. Clear? Nice. Oh, right now? Oh, okay. Huh. Watch it, hey, stop. This is a learning point. When there's big weight with plenty of friction, you can get into this nasty bouncing cadence that can crack things. So just when that happens, which it does happen, I do it, just stop and then see if you can start again into a slow movement. I've got a little bit of rope on a rope, but we're just going to make it slow, we're good. Not much pressure on it. Push that butt back like the other one. Stack some sisters. Stupid stacking sisters. You don't read King KD too much.
Red oak here. Actually, 3 of us are working on pulling this one over. Mr. GRCS, Mr. Mazdam rope puller, and myself. It's got a bit of back lean and a bit of lean toward the house. And there's a hole in the woods without hitting any big trees right past this Andromeda. And so I got the GRCS pulling in the main direction, and then the Mazdam rope puller pulling to the side to give a little bit of strength, a little bit of support anyway to that hinge on that side. And I'll cut my special hinge that I've been working on for over a year now, and some really close friends. I won't show that.
Looking real good. I'm gonna head down the woods. Probably go before I get there. really sweet. Can't wait to see the footage. There it goes. Look at that. Look how far that pulled it out of them. It's still attached a little bit. No. What?
See that big hanger up there?
Yeah, we definitely look for hangers right away, and we spot that sucker. Thank you, Kim. That was noisy, huh?
Yeah. Cool. Oh, look at that.
I like little things like this, like this ambrosia beetle. You know, any weakness at all will cause this the fiber to finally separate, and that's little trails. Now we got this one. Can you try to make it hit them?
It's possible.
Hey, Luce, get there. Good dog. Sniff.
What's that?
Let's get that.
I could finish that if I needed to. The last little bit, but let's that a little bit. Almost finished right there. Just a hair there. Said, here you go. Well, I'm going to wrap this tutorial up. I've been working on it for many years now. I wanted to say thank you to my friends that I shared this information with back in 2017, and I asked you guys to keep quiet on it and let me come out with it, and everyone has pretty much done so. There's been little slip-ups, but everybody's been really great. And over the years, not the same people that are friends stick with you. There's falling outs and stuff, and those people have respected my request to keep this under tabs as well. So those of you that have been using it and love it, please add to the comment section and give your testimonies. And I think that's about it. Thanks, my friend Alex Black that is gone. Thanks for confirming the name with me that I had thought of, and you thought of the exact same name as well. Shark Gill Felling Cut. Anyway, rest in peace, brother. Everybody take care. Please, if you like this content, support me by liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, and hopefully at some point YouTube will give me the tools to do more and to pay me for my time involved. Thanks, take care. I'm out of here.